the establishment of justice and peace abroad will in large measure depend upon the peace and justice we create here in our own country, for we still show the way. The American adventure began here with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. It continues in a common conviction that the source of our blessings is a loving God, in whom we trust. Therefore, I ask all the members of the American family, our guests and friends, to join me now in a moment of silent prayer and meditation in gratitude for all that we have received, and to ask continued safety and happiness for each of us and for the United States of America. Thank you, and God bless you.
President Ford, speaking at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, has talked about where the United States came from and where it might be going. The American process, he says, is a continuing one. This is the fifth of 6 brief speeches that he's making over this bicentennial weekend. He will be in New York in an hour or two to review Operation Sail and the Naval Review from the decks of the USS Forrestal. In New York, Operation Sail is getting well underway. The big boats, the tall ships, have come out from under the Verrazano Bridge, moving up to the harbor. They remain the most gripping sight of the bicentennial affairs, and we will be back to take a closer look at Operation Sail and where it stands right now in just a minute.
Get ready for the Summer Olympic Games in track and field. Look for Madeline Manning Jackson, gold medal winner, 72 Olympics. Arkansas's Earl Bell learned to pole vault in his backyard, held a world record. In the broad jump, the 72 Olympic gold medal winner, Randy Williams. In the hurdles, South Carolina's Charles Foster, America's top hope for gold. The Summer Olympic Games, up close and personal, the ABC way.
The Minnesota Territory, 1850, 84,000 square miles of wilderness, with a population of just 6,000 brave and lonely souls. The emigrants had traveled halfway around the world to settle here, to build a new life out of sweat, muscle, and the determination to be free. Part 2 of an American epic, the victory and the tragedy, the nightmare and the dream of the new land.
Tonight at 8, 7 Central and Mountain on the American Broadcasting Company.
While the tall ships are still coming up the Hudson, another major focus of our activities today is, of course, the nation's capital, which didn't exist in 1776, but is very much there now. And at the nation's capital is ABC's Jim Kincaid. What's going on, Jim?
Well, Harry, I have the privilege of being at the American Folklife Festival, which is a very fitting celebration of a lot of things we Americans find precious. There are pavilions and tents and old-fashioned churches here. Some of the pavilions have local and regional themes. Some of them present exhibitions of our skills, celebrations of the many different minds and the many different shades of people that went to make up America. All the way from the original Americans, as a matter of fact, to those who were very lately arrived. It's unique, too, here at the American Folk Festival in that the spectators at the festival are quite often participants as well. Some of the skills that we'll see demonstrated can be taken part in by those who are on hand. And way down in the middle of the Folk Festival, I see a little plume of smoke arising. I happen to know that underneath that plume of smoke, there's a good old-fashioned American barbecue pit, and I hope to review that later on in the morning. This is Jim Kincaid at the American Folklife Festival.
Thank you, Jim. One of the things I was noticing when President Ford asked for a moment of silent prayer was that he bowed his head, and a good many people among the thousands who were watching him in Philadelphia bowed their heads. But some people scratched themselves, and some people went out for hot dogs, and that's part of America, too. At the other end of the Washington Mall, where another particularly traditional part of America, complaint and contention is being dramatized today, is ABC's Roger Peterson. Roger?
Harry, at this end of the mall, there's a feeling of deja vu. There's a feeling that's very similar to the early civil rights movement, the early protest movements against the war in Vietnam. The protests here against big government and big business in the United States. They say they want independence from big business. They're calling the big corporations more of a monarchy to be overthrown than King George was 200 years ago. The crowd is basically young, basically under 30. The only people who are almost the only people over 30 here are some of the speakers, like Barry Commoner, the environmentalist, who's speaking in the background right now. They'll be going until late this afternoon. 7 hours of speeches and of entertainment. This is Roger Peterson at the People's Bicentennial.
They are 25% unemployed.
It wouldn't be an American celebration if somebody wasn't protesting. I'm sure that there were people protesting the way the Declaration of Independence was done in 1776. It is interesting to note, though, that as Roger says, the protesters now tend to be young, and the people who made the Declaration of Independence were not all that young. They were the bourgeoisie. They were, as President Ford noted, in many cases wealthy men, and when they said that they were pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, the fortunes were something that must have taken them some consideration before they decided to pledge. In New York City, in the harbor, the most dramatic pictures of the Bicentennial, Operation Sail well underway, the United States bark Eagle leading the parade. We're going to look at some of those pictures now. There are roughly, in the parade that we'll be seeing today, are roughly all of the big sailing ships left in the world. There was an attempt made in Germany in the 1960s to build a new cargo sailing ship in which the sails would be governed by computers, and which would be able to sail across the Atlantic at about a quarter the speed, but about a tenth the cost of ships powered by other means. That didn't get anywhere. It may get somewhere, of course, if an oil crisis returns. At the moment, these ships are not saving much oil because most of them don't have their sails up. They're sailing under a wind which doesn't permit that, and they're running on their engines. But I don't think that interferes with their beauty.